bad feeling going into that possession. Dave, you had a great story on espn.com where you got a one-on-one with Anthony Davis. Let me just reiterate to folks out there, man, it is hard building relationships with star players. And then on top of that, getting time with guys on the side to trust you so that they can deliver their story and their perspective and, make sure that it gets out accurately and right. And so shout out and give props to you, Dave, for definitely a great piece with AD. I want to dig into that, Dave, because I think there's a couple things here. One, I love the fact that you get into AD about like how he sees comparisons with this current squad and the makeup of the team to the bubble Lakers, the championship bubble Lakers. Take me a little bit through his mindset of how much he really likes the makeup of this roster.
Well, I mean, think about this, right? Once the Lakers made those trades to totally revamp their roster, it becomes an audition for next season and beyond, because all these guys, Jared Vanderbilt, Mo Bamba, D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, Rui Hachimura, all these guys, they had to make decisions on their contract this offseason. So they're auditioning. They're trying to prove to the Lakers brass, Lakers ownership, that this is a group worth keeping together. Now, Anthony Davis said, of course, it's not up to him. It's up to the decision makers, the powers that be. But that said he sees a similar identity to this year's group, to the team that they won the championship with. Now, obviously, this team right now ranks second in defensive efficiency since they made the trades. Like, that's remarkable. The team that won the championship was third. And beyond that, you talk about he made parallels up and down the roster. He said that Alex Caruso, our new Alex Caruso, supersized, is Jared Vanderbilt. Our wizard with the basketball, the guy stirring the drink, is D'Angelo Russell, much the same way Rajon Rondo used to play that role. Our designated shooter, the guy who stretches the floor, who can get hot in an instant, used to be Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Now we have Malik Beasley. And the one that kind of tickled me, which we haven't necessarily seen quite enough of him yet to draw this comparison, but I see where he's getting at. Rui Hachimura is the new Kyle Kuzma, because he can give you a little bit of everything off the bench. Some nights he's making defensive plays, some nights he's making offensive plays. And put that all together, Anthony Davis's voice certainly holds some weight in the decision-making process. For years now, Rob Pelinka called him a stakeholder along with him and obviously Jeannie Buss and LeBron James when it comes to group decision-making. And so that was fascinating to me. I think the part that resonated a lot with me was just his openness, talking about his relationship with LeBron James. He said that you're going to be hard pressed to find not just a superstars duo that get along as well as him and LeBron does, but any pair of teammates. And people have been trying to pick apart their relationship. It was odd to see his body language in February, the night LeBron James passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the league's all-time leading scorer. But Anthony Davis told me it was just really bad timing. He had got subbed out of the game. They were playing poorly against an OKC team that at the time wasn't really playing all that well. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was out of the lineup. Now OKC's bounced back and they're going to be a threat to make the play-in tournament. But at the time they weren't doing all that well. And the Lakers were trying to get their stuff together. And AD was subbed out of the game, goes to the tunnel by the Lakers bench and just screams in frustration. And he comes back and he's kind of out of it, kind of in a daze, he told me. And he sits back on the bench and teammates are standing up and he doesn't even realize the possession is unfolding where LeBron's going to hit the shot over Kenrich Williams to pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the all-time leading scorer. And the game stops. LeBron comes down, arms in the air. His teammates are going nuts. AD's still kind of in that state of just seemingly out of it. Now, seems strange, right? But also in the story, AD tells me about another, scene from his life shortly after he suffered the foot injury, where again, he was kind of in this mode of frustration where he's sitting on the floor in his closet, just covering his head, shaking. He's so mad and so sad and so frustrated at the same time. And so I think that's a little bit of a pull the veil back and see how Anthony Davis processes emotions sometimes. And that's going to be part of his maturation process too, as one of the Lakers leaders, to keep himself in a mode where he can still be responsive to his teammates, channel those emotions in a way where he can lead, versus kind of pull himself away from the action. And so I was just, appreciative that I've covered him now for 4 years now. And, there's been times where you got to ask him the tough questions, and there'll be times where you see his point of view, but certainly, he, despite the street clothes nicknames, despite Lakers fans, calling for him to be traded at times over these last 4 years, he wants to be a Laker. You saw Pau Gasol's number 16 get raised to the Raptors. He wants that to happen with number 3 for him. And this should be music to any Lakers fans' ears. He said he wants to get number 18. Why does he want to get number 18? Not just for him to get a second championship and to validate this group that he's played with LeBron James, but to beat the Boston Celtics and bring the Lakers back as the preeminent franchise in the league. So I encourage any of our viewers to check it out. But there's another team that just beat the Thunder without one of their stars. So just update us on where things stand with Paul George right now.
Yeah, man, Dave, look, the other night, Tuesday night, Paul George starts off the game just posterizing. I don't even remember who it was on. He absolutely posterized somebody inside with a dunk. And he was like, he just had an extra bounce to his step. I think at one point he did like a little, he was coming down for 3, stopped and planted, and the defender went kind of flying sideways. And Paul didn't make the shot that would have been the highlight 3. But you could tell it was like one of these games where, man, Paul George was feeling it. And then third quarter, he throws down a 360 spinning dunk on the baseline that I can't remember really seeing in live action. In
a half court set.
Yeah, that was not a breakaway.
In a fast break, right?
Yeah, not a breakaway. Set. This is a baseline drive, and the C parts, and all of a sudden, I saw it was like a tornado, and I was like, no, he is not going to do that. No, he's not going to do that. And then, I just, when I can never contain myself when I see a nasty dunk front row. So when I saw that, I grabbed Law Murray, I think, and I was like, holy bleep. And so he's looking great. And then late in the fourth quarter, 4 minutes ago, he goes to grab a rebound. Lou Dort flies into him. Their knees collide, but perhaps even worse, as Paul lands on his right knee, Lou Dort's knee is still kind of pushing it backwards. And it was just awkward. And then he crumbles to the floor. And if you remember, this is the same leg that he had that gruesome injury at Team USA back in 2014 when he ran into the stanchion. So, he needs help to walk off the floor. They carry him out through the tunnel. After the game, there are people, in PG's camp looking shaken. And at that point, nobody knew what exactly the condition of his knee was. But certainly, like in that hallway outside the Clippers locker room, it was just so eerily quiet. But normally hustling and bustling, players leaving, saying we haven't been able to talk to PG yet. We don't know how serious it is. And so at the end of the night, I see PG on the back of a cart with his leg extended out, being taken to loading dock. And I kind of nodded at him and he nodded back. So I thought that was a positive sign, but you never know. So the next day after MRI, the best case scenario, no damage to his ACL, MCL, or PCL. A sprained knee, I'm not a doctor, Dave, but I think we know that sprain usually means there is some sort of maybe even like a minor tear in something because it's been stretched or whatever it may be. But in this case, I've been told there's been no tears to his MCL, PCL, or ACL. If anything, it might be like fibers around his knee. Still, it's going to take, he needs it immobilized for a couple weeks at least. And then they would reassess 2 to 3 weeks. That would just be what the next step is, how it's doing at this point and how much longer he may need. I don't even think it would be return to play. So I asked, is it possible he could come back, middle first round or late first round? And I was told that might be optimistic. So that's going to be tough for the Clippers to not only try to stay in the playoff race out of the play-in without PG, but then maybe to have to get through the first round without PG would be very difficult. The great thing is, though, Dave, I'm told no surgery. Surgery is not an option for him. Now, granted, who knows what let's hope there's not a setback or anything like that. But as of now, no surgery. So that's good news for PG. As good as you can think after seeing how scary it was.
I mean, every once in a while there are one of those cringe injuries where you see it and you're like, oh, man, that is just gruesome and brutal. And a player can play. I think back to the 2021 Eastern Conference Finals, Atlanta versus Milwaukee. Giannis's knee bent in a direction that no human body should ever bend. And there he was out on the court to start the NBA Finals and obviously beat the Suns to get his first championship. And so, I'm just hoping that Paul George's body can withstand, just a motion that is inhuman. But obviously, your reporting indicates that all things considered, there's still a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel here. And honestly, the way Kawhi Leonard is playing, there was a stat on NBA Today that was shared that I believe the Clippers are 13-2 in games when Kawhi scores 30 or more.
Yeah.
If Kawhi is feeling it, this is kind of almost going to be the reverse of 2021.
Yeah.
Where you had Paul George leading them to the Western Conference Finals, hoping that Kawhi can make a comeback. Maybe they turn the tables this time around and Kawhi can lead them and you get Paul George back.
Listen, Dave, when Kawhi, I never thought I'd see this, that Kawhi would be pre-ACL injury this fast. I thought maybe come playoff time, we'd really kind of see him ramp it up and return to the level. He's been at that level now since about January, which is why, like, when people make the argument about load management, and I am definitely on the old school side. I don't like load management. I'm a 82 game a guy a year. That's the school I come from. But when it comes to Kawhi Leonard, everything he's done has worked. Now, this is the thing. He's scored 30 or more points, and I think in 7 of the last 14 games or something like that for the Clippers. When he is on that from the get-go, you see a certain type of force that he plays with. And we saw it Thursday night against Oklahoma City. I definitely think it was on his mind that people were talking about him being in the torture chamber. He didn't get a shot off at the end against Dort. Basically in the game on Tuesday night, they lost by 1. I don't know. It's a little bit on Kawhi Leonard. He should have taken a shot, but they had time, and Marcus Morris comes over and tries to set a screen, looks a little bit unsure, comes back, tries to set another one. I think he needed space, needed to clear out, and then he just didn't end up taking a shot for whatever reason. But I think it was on Kawhi's mind, and he came out with a vengeance. He had his first 7 shots in the first quarter, didn't take a shot in the second quarter, but then basically in the third and fourth took over. And at one point, Dave, I don't know if you saw the highlight, he put on a straight Jordan-esque move where he didn't even, like, Jordan would have backed in his defender and then did the little to the left, to the right, turn around, fade away.
Yeah.
Kawhi brought the ball up the floor, turned his back, turned to the left, shimmy to the left, to the right, and then shot it all in one motion. And I was like, oh man, when he's got the MJ, spin reverse, fade away, I'm like, that, he's got it going on. So he definitely looks at that level. The question is, Dave, and I let's look at the playoff race here. The Clippers have 2 back-to-backs remaining, so we're going to have to see if Kawhi Leonard now is going to play. I'm leaning toward maybe he doesn't, but they're going to need these games. And, of course, with no Paul George, that makes it very difficult if Kawhi has to sit out. You might as well be looking at possibly losing that second game. Now, I'd say Ty Lue would say, look at us last year. We didn't have both stars and we still won games that we weren't supposed to win. But the Clippers now are in 5th, Dave, and they are they're tied with Phoenix for 4th. But Phoenix, I think, right now holds and will probably hold the tiebreaker because they do meet in the last game of the regular season. But I think the tiebreaker will come down to divisional games first. And the Suns hold a distinct advantage there. So the Clippers, though, are still amazingly 2 games out of 7. So if they just have one little losing streak here, they're in the play-in. And I don't know what's going to happen down the stretch here. I really don't.
Yeah, the Lakers are kind of on the opposite side of the coin there. They're in 9th and a game and a half out of 6th. And they got 2 games against Utah remaining. They got a game against the Suns, 2 games against the Bulls. They got the Thunder, obviously got that big Clippers matchup. They got the Wolves on the road, and they got Houston on the road again. You look at it, and based on the way the Lakers have played, the way they played against Phoenix the other night, like literally 7-2, 8-1 is not an insane thing to say. But then you say, okay, what happens if guys can't play? And now we look at the OKC game on Friday, and this may be published after the game's over, but D'Angelo Russell is questionable, right? And so then you're like, okay, then we move up Dennis Schroeder, who's had his moments, but then who's our backup point guard? And do we move Austin Reeves back to the second unit, even though he looks so good as a starter?
Fire.
He's been fantastic.
Going to the line like he's Shaquille O'Neal.
It led the league in free throw attempts over a 4-game span, which is pretty remarkable for any guy who comes into the league undrafted. But so I have, I have faith that this team is trending upwards, and it's not a false bill of goods that they're showing so far, and they're all going to crumble.
Are you sleeping on the two back-to-back Pat Bev revenge games?
Oh boy.
Yeah, I know.
Pat Beverly, baby. Pat Beverly waits till this podcast months later to describe, how all the problems with the Lakers defense when supposedly he was supposed to be a leader of that team. I don't know.
Didn't Pat Bev also said something like, I think it might have been on his podcast, that he said in Chicago, if he has a bad game, he's not getting booed and heckled and jeered like he was in LA. LA was
those
so
toxic
tough on
Laker
him.
fans, man.
Yeah.
Watch out for those toxic Laker fans. No one wants to be in their crosshairs.
Let me ask you something, Dave. I saw earlier in the week, I think it was you and Woj reporting a potential return timeline for LeBron, and that LeBron is trending in the direction that maybe he comes back in the final week at some point, right? Any chance? Give me the timeline of what you think that he could return for that Clipper game on April 5th, which I think is going to be monumental for both teams.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be the second night of a back-to-back for the Lakers. And as of right now, Anthony Davis is not cleared to play in back-to-backs. The medical team will continue to evaluate him, and there's a chance they could change that status for him. But, to me, that could indicate that maybe AD would rest in Utah, and then AD would rather play against the Clippers. And, I certainly believe if and when LeBron James returns to the regular season, it will be the game that AD is there. You want to have him play with the team at full force around him. And, Woj and I reported those final 3 games of the regular season would be the target date. LeBron James went on Twitter and pushed back against it a little bit. We stand by. Course. Right. We stand by our reporting. There's caveats there, right? LeBron James would have to continue to progress well in his rehab. It would have to suffer no setbacks. Obviously, if the Lakers continue to play well, they've won 2 in a row. If they secure a spot, well, then don't rush back with 3 games left, right? It's all about trying to get back when he's at the healthiest with the best chance to get rhythm to then be able to perform at his highest level when the games really, really matter, whether it be in the play-in tournament or whether that be in the first round of the NBA playoffs. And so, listen, things are good. Things are not great, or he'd already be back, and we're only about a month removed from this foot injury. And obviously the fact that we're at 4 weeks with this injury would indicate that it's a serious situation. LeBron James hadn't had too many injuries in his entire career. It's caused him to miss this much time. But Dennis Schroeder told us that LeBron's working out 3 times a day. LeBron confirmed that bit of information on his tweet. So not
is he
all
working? Is he working out with Is he working out with those great German doctors? I was hoping.
Dennis, we have to get Dennis more information on that again. But it's a good sign for the Lakers, and there is a reason why this team is not in one iota letting go of the rope. They believe that they are playing these games with the purpose to get in, and not just to get in to check a mark to say, hey, we didn't miss the playoffs 2 years in a row, but to then get there and do some damage. Like this is a team, Anthony Davis, as he described all those pieces that he made parallels to the 2020 championship team. He said, we like our chances against anybody. And belief carries teams so far in this league. You get into